Howdy, my homies. James here with Rewind Electric once again. And I am going through some mail today. I've already got some stuff open. Got something else to open here. I want to do it on camera, and I'm going to bring you guys along. So, first of all, highly underrated pedal. Awesome. You'll notice the gain is only like halfway up and the level is like way backed off. Also good to have this, like, that's like the highest I would ever have it. Yeah, man, very, very nice in conjunction with other gain. Good for sculpting sounds. It is not just a metal pedal. This guy's from 1978. Pretty cool. It was kind of like a bonus on a deal. I used to have one of these though, exactly, probably of the same year. A lot of EHX pots are dated 1978. So to say that, you know, this is really made in 1978, it could be 79. Who knows? But yeah, it sounds pretty much like my old one. In fact, this one's a little bit cleaner, and yeah, I dig it. So that's just here for because it's here. This just came in yesterday. Man, what a cool piece this is. So I'm doing an analog delay, a vintage analog delay shootout, and this qualifies, and I wanted to include it, and it is super clean, and I have the box, as my buddy Josh would say. So, clean externally in appearance, not so much in function. In fact, it's one of the gnarliest, dirtiest delays I've ever heard. I haven't quite figured out how these outputs both work yet. I only played with it very briefly. But basically, I think one has less of the dry signal than the other, but they both bleed through to each other. The bypass is kind of a joke. It sort of cuts the delay volume into like a third or so of what it was, and if you've got any gain on, it's like it cuts it by a quarter maybe. So you would have to have this in a looper or modify it, which this is way too clean. I'm not going to do that. I love this big chunky switch though. You get some clock noise on this, but it's not so bad. I mean, you get that on all the old analog delays. It's kind of part of the gnarly charm. What this does to the echoes is very, very cool. It really messes them up. They get dark and dirty very quickly. Like your first, second echo sounds like your eighth echo on something else. But not in the same way as, say, one of these, a Deluxe Memory Man. The Memory Man gets very whooshy and slooshy. Very whooshy and slooshy? Very sloshy? Yeah, very whooshy and sloshy. And it really messes up your echoes in that liquidy, trippy kind of way. This stays very dry and tight. It's got a great attack, but it also mangles up your delays in its own way. So you'll get to hear all that in the upcoming comparison. And this one I think is going to really hold its own place in that because it has some strengths that set it into its own category. Okay. This one, I might include in that, I might not. I'm not sure yet. But it is related to what I'm about to get into, I think. Well, so what you'll notice on here is where it came from. If you've seen these tags, you know this is a Guitar Center tag. And this is sold as a vintage 1980s Maxon analog delay. Now we can tell by this CE certification, which didn't exist in the 1980s, this is not a vintage 1980s Maxon analog delay. But if you've ever bought anything from Guitar Center, they've got like one blurry photo. In fact, here, let me illustrate this in a fun way while removing these vintage quarter-watt Allen Bradley carbon composition resistors. Composite? I forget what they're named. This is basically what you see when you buy something from Guitar Center. Well, maybe it's a little better than that. I'll give them the one layer. Here, kind of like that. You buy something from Guitar Center and you look online and like, this is the photo you get. Or sometimes there's like somebody's sleeve covering up a piece of it or something, and it's like vintage 80s delay. So I mean, they live on loans and return policies. So what are you going to do? You take a chance. But yeah, it is a cool delay, but yeah, it's definitely not 80s. And just to confirm that beyond seeing that it's an 8999 and the CE sticker, if you look inside, obviously, I loosened these screws because there was something else wrong with it inside, and I'll show you here. But yeah, that is a 2000s design with modern parts. You'll also see somebody modded this. They messed with the jacks to make it, I don't know why. I'm just kind of guessing, rather than having dry and delay on one and then delay only on the other. It looks at a guess that they probably had delay on one and dry on the other. That's possible. When they put this back together, this was sitting like this, just laying on that circuit board. It's supposed to go, these are bent. It's supposed to go this way, so those little legs hold it up, and then there's a piece of plastic to shield it from the other. But it works. I think just because the pedal was flipped over, gravity was holding that down and away from the circuit board, and it worked. So anyway, the relation to what I'm about to get into is Guitar Center not knowing what they're selling. Mislabeling things. Or did they pay somebody like $400 for that or something, you know, on a trade? Maybe they did it on purpose to, you know, make a deal happen. They really wanted to sell that PRS or whatever. Or Epiphone. I guess most of their stores don't have PRS. This was sold as a 1970s electric Mistress. Also from Guitar Center. It's very, there were 3 photos of it, none showing the underside, none showing the power cord. Okay, so I'm opening this on camera because I'm suspicious. This looks kind of like the original box, but they also used a similar box for the reissues, and I don't really know. You know, there's nothing distinct on it to say. Like the box is, could be old, it could be modern. I really don't know. But I'm suspicious because of the photos of how clean this was. Usually, you know, the paint on these things is coming off. This is an extremely clean example, but the paint is fragile, especially on the even older ones like this is supposed to be. So this is sealed up here. I'm gonna cut into it. Moment of truth. Dang, that is clean. Oh, but yeah, look. That's not 1970s. That's a 3-prong, and it's a 3-prong, I bet, with, yup. There you go. I don't know if that's going to come in on the camera well, but there's the modern printing, the codes for the type of wire it is and its ratings. So, okay, all right, we could still say, for the sake of argument, that maybe somebody put a modern 3-prong on it. Should have been listed as modded if that was the case, but I kind of doubt that anyway. Let's explore a little further. This switch looks wrong. It's sticking out a little far, and it should be loose and floppy. Let's see. No. Yeah, it's really crisp and tight. That's a modern switch. The old ones slide. You know, I don't have them. Oh, yeah, I do. Totally different. Okay. These knobs should be push-on knobs. They should be the same as this knob. And they're push-ons because HX used these plastic D-shaped shaft CTS pots that are all basically dated 1978 from what I can tell, at least in the ones after that. Let's see. Do these have set screws? Yes, they do. That shouldn't be the case. See, if you look at here's the pointer, and then opposite the pointer, there's nothing. There's no set screws or anything like that. Here's the pointers. They're all kind of pointing now. And then opposite the pointers, they all have set screws. And I'll give you that, okay, you could argue, still here, trying to give the benefit of the doubt. You could argue that that somebody replaced the knobs. Okay, somebody replaced the knobs and the switch and the cord. I'll take one of these off. I bet you it's a solid shaft pot and not a plastic D-shaped. See how that's got like a flat part? They call it a D because it looks like a D if you draw it that way. I bet these don't have that because you'd have a hard time getting a set screw knob to sit straight on one. Nope. Need a smaller driver. Solid metal shaft. Let's keep going. Maybe somebody replaced that one pot. I mean, yeah, right at this point. Yep, solid metal shaft. Solid metal shaft. Okay. There could be one, we haven't looked at the back yet. There could be one more place to explore here. That might be a dead giveaway. Maybe the reshoes have like a date or a serial or something like that. I actually don't know. I don't know much about well, unless it's under here, and I don't want to take their tag off. But here, look, you can see. I think you can see. Maybe I should zoom this way. Vintage 1970s Electro-Harmonix, and it's a Deluxe electric Mistress. Yeah, no. Yeah, check this out. Black oxide screws. That's not correct for 1970s. Let's see what the, I think the memory man should have one of the screws in it. And I guarantee you they're not black oxide because that was not something that was used then. Yeah, see, it should have silver screws like that holding the back panel on just like this. Actually 1970s Deluxe memory man. So let's pop it open since we're here. We got on this far. And see, there should be a really old circuit board with lots of curvy lines. No modern parts. You should, if this was added, you should see a non-factory grounding to the chassis inside where somebody either soldered it to the chassis or found a way to bolt it on in some non-original way. I mean, honestly, this is a joke at this point. We know this thing's a reissue. But let's just see it through. $500. I paid that. I didn't get a deal. I just bought it. And I'll be getting that back. Believe me. All right, whatever's in here is going to be indisputable. Everything else, you could argue if you're crazy, but yeah, look at that. Modern circuit board, not the brown one with all the swervy lines and curves on it. Modern transformer, replica Carling switch. You can see the mold marks on it. I bet it says Mexico on the side. No? Maybe this side? Yes. Can you see that? Let me get a little zoom happening here. Does that show there? Can you see where it says Mexico? Maybe I need to zoom more. It's hard for me to see the screen. Yeah, you see that? Mexico. Okay. Yeah, right here, what I was talking about. That's a factory ground, and it's got inspection paint on it from the factory. These wouldn't have had 3-prong cords, and they wouldn't have had that ground. And here's where the 3-prong cord is grounded, I bet. Yep. There is also inspection paint on it there, and it goes from the chassis to the lug, to the transformer, to the bolt, to the screw. So it's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's extremely original. It's on 5 parts there. Perfect matching for the other side and the other ground, wherever it went there. So yeah, Modern Alpha pot. And they are Swisscraft jacks. Very nice, but modern Swisscraft jacks. Also, you can just see modern wire here. This has, rating codes printed on it. There's PVC heat shrink. It's PVC wire here, 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 here. Teflon wire here, 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 here. These PVC again. Teflon right there again. I can't tell what that is. I think that is also Teflon. Okay. Should we explore it further? Nah, we're done. Not that we need to, but I bet this is still squishy. That sat over the transformer. On an original, this would be absolutely turned to dust. Definitely would have no squishiness. Yeah. I don't know if you can see that, but it's, I can stick my fingernail into it or my whole thumb, push it down, and it sponges right back. It's still fresh. So this is like a 90s or 2000 reissue. Guitar Center is wrong about what this is, like they were wrong about the other. I'm not going to speculate that they did anything malicious in selling it as such. They are probably just ignorant, and somebody came in selling it to them, told them it was 70s. They looked at a picture on eBay or something, didn't realize there was a reissue that looked just like it other than a few little features. And we're like, yeah, dude, that's good. We'll buy that, and we'll hook you up with a nice discount on that Mesa Boogie amplifier you want, or J Trusser guitar, or Fender Bullet, or whatever it is that they're selling it. And we'll throw in some picks and strings, I'm sure. So yeah, I mean, so to somebody who's kind of ignorant, you might think the box is old. I wasn't even certain about the box because I'm not super familiar with Electro-Harmonix stuff. But major giveaway right there. They didn't have that. Same with these set screws. Same with that black oxide on the back. This is supposed to be, these guys sell themselves as professionals, and that would be on the buying the gear side and the selling the gear side. So it's like nobody throughout that chain of custody of this thing was like, hold on. Mistakes have happened. We cannot sell this to someone else falsely. Either they knew it and overlooked it and hoped it wouldn't come back on them, or all through the whole process of this thing, like getting bought, going into inventory, being on display, sitting in the store, people asking about it, or, if that didn't happen, at least like me buying it and then getting boxed up and shipping, like nobody in that whole process caught on that this was not vintage. So it's going back. What else? Do I have anything else fun to show you guys? Sure. Look at this. I got some. These are vintage. Oh, and they're packed very well. Radium pots, like you'd find on an old fuzz face. Don't come across those every day. Very rare British-made pots. All right, that's all I got. See ya! And see you to this guy too. Going back in the box.